And I would like to introduce Akshay Kootli from the University of Twente, and this is a collaboration with TNO, the Netherlands Organization for Applied Scientific Research. And the talk is about updates on the pressure-based incompressible solver.
Yeah, hello.
So, hey, can you switch on your webcam, or are you joining via Linux?
No, I am on. It's just taking over.
Okay, thank you. Then please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the introduction, Daniel. I'm Akshay. Today I'm going to talk about the pressure-based incompressible solver in SU2. So yes, I think I can't change that. Here's a brief outline of the talk. So first I'll just update you on what the pressure-based solver is and what I've done so far. Then I'll show some validation results very quickly. Then I move on to the main topic of today's talk on the New Mexico rotor. Finally, I'll end with some of the issues that I'm facing so far and what I plan to do in the future. The pressure-based solver, the work on the pressure-based solver has been part of a PhD project with University of Twente and supported from the wind energy group of TNO. I've been working on this for the past three or so years. So because I'm supported by the wind energy group, my main focus has been on incompressible flows and rotor simulations. So to that end, I have mostly focused on the incompressible flow, and I've added some capabilities for rotating reference frame. The code is available on GitHub. It's on the branch feature pressure based. There are some test cases available as well. So you're free to test them out for yourselves and come back to me with any comments or suggestions. At the moment, it's a little behind develop, but usually it's on version, I think 7.0.6 or something. I've fallen back a little, but usually it's up to date and it can do most of the capabilities the usual flow solver can do. Moving on to some validation. So the first result I want to show is the NACA 0012 case from the NASA TMR website. So this is largely incompressible flow at 6 million Reynolds number, and looking at the results from the pressure-based solver from both SA and SST comparing to the experimental data. So here the experimental data are in the red and black, and the results from the new solver are in green and blue. So the green is the SST and the blue is the SA. As you can see, both the models give a pretty good result. As expected, the SST does slightly better near the stall, but that's again a consequence of RANs. With the drag as well, we see pretty good comparison to the experimental data in the attached flow region. There are some discrepancies after stall, but this is naturally expected from RANs simulations. Moving to the unsteady results. So this is a dynamic stall simulation at 1 million Reynolds number on the same airfoil. The airfoil is pitching at a non-dimensional frequency of 0.2, starting at a 15-degree angle of attack and pitches from 5 to 25, so amplitude of 10. And looking at the comparison to experimental data here. So here we see on the upstroke, the results, the numerical results are in the dotted lines, and the filled in examples are the experimental data. So you can see on the upstroke, the numerical results match the experimental data pretty well, and we still see the hysteresis loop that is expected. There is slight over prediction of the results from the numerical that was also saw in the static case. The performance is not so good once in the reattachment zone, but that's again expected with the RANs simulations. Same with the drag. Here we see there is a pretty good agreement during the upstroke. There is no prediction of the stall angle, and the hysteresis loop is still observed. So the main takeaways from the validation results are that the new solver is capable of doing the steady and unsteady RANs problems, just like the existing solvers. And the performance is as expected in the attached regions, and there is some discrepancies in the separated flow. And most importantly, the results match the experimental data and other state-of-the-art CFD solvers, including the density-based solver and the compressible solver. Moving on to the main part of today's presentation, the results from the New Mexico rotor. So this was a key aspect of my PhD presentation, and here I'm comparing the results from the new pressure-based solver with the experimental results from this experimental campaign. So Mexico here stands for Model Experiments in Controlled Conditions. It's got nothing to do with the country. So the rotor, it's a 3-bladed turbine, has a diameter of 4.5 meters, as you can see here. The experiments were carried out under a variety of conditions, but for my case, I'm focusing mainly on the design conditions. So the incoming velocity is of 15 meters per second, which gives a tip speed ratio of approximately 6.7. The rotational speed is quite high to account for the small rotor here. So the simulation domain to do this is shown here. So we have the domain is about 8 diameters long, with the rotor being placed about 2.5 diameters from the inlet. Since it's a 3-bladed turbine, we have a periodic simulation here, and the radius of this sector is 1.5 diameters. The high rotational rate results the omega is about 44 radians per second. So I'm considering 2 different meshes here. So the refinement is mostly along the chord of the rotor blade. So the fine mesh has about 25 million elements, and the coarse mesh has about 15 million elements. The grids were generated in pointwise using T-Rex meshing, and I'll show results from both SA and the SST turbulence models. So just a more detailed look at the rotor blade itself. So the rotor is composed of 3 airfoil sections. So the 25% DU airfoil, 21% in the midboard section, and 18% thickness airfoil in the tip. Pressure measurements are carried out at these 5 locations that are shown here. I'll show only 3 of them for the sake of time, but I have more results in a publication. Here we see some surface flow streamlines. The color schemes perhaps not very clear, but since these are the design conditions, the flow remains attached more or less throughout the rotor blade. There is some small separation near the root, that is the thickest part of the blade, which is expected as well. Otherwise, the flow is attached because of the design condition. Looking at the pressure results, so this is at the inboard section where we saw the flow separation, and here I'm comparing results from SA and SST turbulence models with the 2 grids, and I'm comparing them. The red dots are the experimental data. I'm also adding results from OpenFOAM and Ellipsis from DTU in Denmark. So these are more state-of-the-art CFD solvers generally used for wind turbine simulations here. So this is at the separated region. As you can see, the numerical results are all clustered together, but they don't really match the experimental data very well, largely because in the inboard section, it's usually this way. But when we go to the midboard section, for example, at 60% of the radius, here we see a much better match of the numerical results and the experimental data. Also, encouragingly, the pressure-based solver matches the numerical results from other state-of-the-art codes. There is small over-prediction of the peak pressures here, but that's also observed in other CFD codes, and it's a consequence of RAN simulations. Moving on to the tip of the blade here, here the flow is very nicely attached. So here we have a very good match in both SA and SST results compared to the experimental data. There is small underprediction of the peak, but again, it's not significantly high, and the results from the pressure-based solver are very close to the results from the other state-of-the-art CFD solvers. Finally, looking at the loads. So these loads are calculated by integrating the pressure and the friction forces along each of the sections. And I've done this for all the 5 sections. And as you can see, the normal loads, here I'm only showing results from the fine grid. The normal loads are all very close to the results from the other CFD codes. And there is a small issue with the experimental data at this point, but otherwise the trend remains the same. There is more inconsistency when we look at the tangential loads. That's also because the magnitude of the tangential loads are much smaller compared to the normal loads. the main reasons are some numerical issues, especially with SST simulation that I'll briefly mention them soon. So in conclusion, the main takeaways for me are that the pressure-based solver now can be used to simulate the flow past wind turbine rotors, and the performance from the solver is close to the existing state-of-the-art solvers. There are still some numerical issues that have to be resolved before it can be used extensively. So just to highlight a little more on the numerical issues. So one of the biggest issue I faced was because of the high rotation rate, it was impossible to start at the design rotation rate. So I had to do multiple steps of rotation, which means the computational time was very long compared to other CFD solvers. And there was some poor convergence behavior in the skewed cells, especially in the hub region where you have an abrupt change of geometry. This sometimes could also lead to divergence if the mesh was not done properly. But I think these are more typical examples where I need to improve the robustness by adding some relaxation and so on. But a peculiar problem that I still face is the issue with the corner elements. When I have far field and symmetry boundaries, the turbulence solver seems to diverge for some reason. And this only happens with the pressure-based solver, by the way, not with the density-based or the compressible one. So there's some work to do to improve the robustness of the solver. And of course, I think the biggest thing is to merge it with develop once I have some useful cases as well. So that's the presentation. Thank you for your time. I'm open for any questions.
Thank you for your nice talk. Yeah, we have one more general question. And the question here is, what's the advantage of SU2 over OpenFOAM? So maybe if you have an opinion on that, you can tell us what you think.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky question. I think it just comes down to choice and personal preferences. At the moment, OpenFOAM is only pressure-based, and SU2, I have now implemented the pressure-based solver in SU2. Previously, there was only the density-based solver available for incompressible flows. So the pressure-based solver is also coming. It's perhaps not as robust as OpenFOAM with the pressure-based, but I mean, there's so many other things to consider, and I don't think I can cover them all.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you very much. I have also a question. So I was wondering, you mentioned that you have poor convergence in skewed cells, and we see something similar in the scalar solver. And I was just wondering, did you observe this for all mesh cell types, or do you see that this is more pronounced for pyramids or something like that?
Yeah, it's usually when there was the transition from the hexa to the pyramids and or the TET cells, like especially if there is a large gradient there was a lot of issues for me.
Okay, and you also mentioned you want to work on the robustness of the solver. So what are your ideas there? How do you want to improve the robustness?
I'm looking at some of the work Tom did on the CFL adaptation and some relaxation, especially during the initial startup phase, because that's where I tend to lose out. So yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, the problem was the initialization with the rotor case as well. So I'm trying to understand how Thomas Kahneman has worked on the CFL adapt and other relaxation parameters, and maybe even look at OpenFOAM and on what they are doing to make sure there is the initial change is more gradual. So that's my directions now.
Okay, thank you. Here's one more question by Amit Sachdeva, and he asks, how does it compare, in brackets, the performance with density-based solvers? And then he mentions artificial compressibility approach in SU2.
At the moment, the pressure-based solvers, I mean, the CFL numbers are a bit restricted because of the, I mean, generally because we are doing the segregated way. But otherwise, the results are all usually quite good from the pressure-based solver I've seen. I have not done very extensive comparisons. I mean, generally, what I've observed is you need like slightly coarser meshes. I mean, you can get good results with slightly coarser meshes with the pressure-based solver, whereas with the density-based solver, usually you need to refine a little more. That has been my observation with some academic cases I've done, but I haven't used it extensively for more applications.
All right, thank you very much. So I think it's time to move on to our next talk.